Hello, and welcome to the PC Gaming Weekspot, your recap of the last 7 days in PC video gaming. My name is Colin Mahern, and joining me this week is, it's Matthew Castle.
Hello.
Matthew, I'm sorry, but just nothing happened in the last 7 days.
There's nothing that you can riff on.
Absolutely, just a staggeringly newsless week. So, do you want to just kick on and get into the the information snacks?
It's too raw, Colin. How dare you bring it up?
We could just crack on. Oh, listen, the way in which I have, everyone likes Marcus Rashford. He's a lovely boy. As are a lot of the team and the manager. They all are a nice bunch of lads. And the way in which you lost, you don't give a shit.
No, I don't really care. I mean, listen, it didn't stop me from going out this morning and throwing a can of Heinz baked beans through the window of Pizza Hut. But,
when in Rome or Bath? Was Bath his?
Bath, yeah. I mean, that's in Bath, like, I am the rough element. So I had to do something to keep my reputation up.
Did you stick a flare up your arse? Or
several? I mean, Colin, that's what I do every Sunday.
Yeah, you looked at that pitch and you were like, amateur. Come on, you could fit a couple more in there. But yes, congratulations to our Italian friends, if there are any of you watching.
I'll tell you what, you look bad if you stick a flare up your arse anyway, but if you do it and then you don't win, you look extra stupid. All of that was for nothing. All that scolding. Well,
do you think the guy who stuck the flare up his ass was worse or better, depending on your outlook, than the guy who was naked and helicoptering his willy around on top of a car outside a PC World?
It's really close.
Yeah.
It's 1-1 and will have to be decided on penalties.
Oh, look, just grab your news crank and let's get into it, Matthew, because I have some information snacks for you.
Info snacks for his gob.
So, starting us off this week, there's been a bit of moving and shaking in that. Their Electronic Arts, as Dice LA, who predominantly a support studio for Big Boy Dice, they're working on Battlefield 2042. They have been rebranded to Ripple Effect Studios, and Respawn Entertainment CEO Vince Zampella, he of, Titanfall and Call of Duty Modern Warfare fame, he's going to be overseeing the team. The name change is down to them going to be working on their own brand new game. Zampella said, quote, "I think they've kind of gotten the branding that they are the support studio for DICE Stockholm. I think rebranding is important for showing people, hey, come work here. We're going to do some amazing things."
Mm.
I mean, if you're going to be doing your own first-person shooters and you're going to be doing amazing things, a signal of intent at the very least to get the boy Vinny Z in there.
Old Vinny Z.
Yeah, he's quite accomplished with these first-person shooters. So intriguing to see what comes from that.
Yeah. Whenever I think of rebranding, I always think there's a you always hear stories about these restaurants that fail their food health and safety checks. Mm-hmm. So they basically just close and then start up as a new restaurant with a new name, but they're the same restaurant. So it's it's a bit like that, It's not like that. Listen, it's going to take a little while to warm up this morning.
Well, let's see if you have any opinions on the next one. There was a PlayStation Direct last week. Listen, there probably won't be much opinion because it's a cool thing. But do you remember that Kung Fu Brawler from the Absolver developer Slow Clap was called Sifu? It was originally shown off a couple of months ago now, I think. But looked very good. that was meant to be out this year. Sadly, it's been pushed to 2022. Now, that was kind of the only PC related thing of note in that PlayStation Direct, because like there was 10 minutes of Deathloop gameplay, but I think at this stage we're all just going, yeah, just, you know, tell us when Deathloop is out and we'll play it.
I think at this stage I'm kind of like, I don't want to see more Deathloop. I just want to play Deathloop.
Yeah.
I like discovering those worlds. No more spoilers.
Final Fantasy 16 producer Naoki Yoshida recently said that the main campaign of Final Fantasy 16 is written and development is progressing. But he did, because I think he was getting questions about maybe showing it off at Tokyo Game Show later in the year, and he was like, maybe next year. Maybe you'll get a look at it next year.
That sounds like some of the excuses I come up when I'm freelancing.
Maybe
I've
next
got the
week.
main body of the list. I know what the 7 entries are, but development is progressing. Yeah. I'm on to you, Yoshida.
And finally, last little information snack for you. The Witcher 3 is getting DLC. Yes, The Witcher 3, the game that came out in 2015, wasn't it? But this DLC is inspired by the Henry Cavill-led Netflix television program. They haven't said much on it yet, but what we have seen is, I think it's the cover art for The Witcher 3 Complete Edition, I think they're calling this.
Right.
And at the very bottom of it, you can see like includes items, I think it says, from the Netflix television show. So it's going to be horse armor. It's going to be, I don't know.
I'd be very surprised if like game Geralt met TV Geralt in the game.
That would be good though.
There's Dandelion in the game, and the
comes in singing the song.
What's he called in the show? He's not called Dandelion. He's got his original name, isn't he? Jaskier?
I can't
Something
remember.
like that.
I can't. All I can remember is that song.
I was listening to that the other day. Actually, I got it up on YouTube and was just thinking, oh yeah,
God,
toss a coin, see a Witcher. I like that song. It's got quite bad lyrics. The lyrics are literally like, he walks along and there was a monster, he killed the monster and everyone was happy. It's like, it's kind of
pure poetry. Pure poetry.
Yeah.
So those...
Some terrible rhymes, but...
Those are your information snacks for this week, Matthew. Not a ton of them, but you know, I gave you a small. Hungry. Yeah, I gave you a little taster, a small starter, because quite a big main course for you, which will be brought in. I can see him coming in now. Yeah, just over here, Hugh. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Hugh Edwards. Working in news is exciting.
Yes, Headlines and Hot Takes is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we take you through the bigger news stories, the more noteworthy news stories of the past week. And Matthew Castle, this is one. Are you ready to speculate? Because by gum, are we going to speculate?
To accumulate.
Well, let's see how many.
Is that a saying? I think that's a saying.
I think that's a saying. I think it is, yeah.
I hope it is. Got it tattooed on my back.
But let's see if you can speculate much on the fact that Grand Theft Auto 6 it's confirmed. It's going to be set in a Vice City. So, no, maybe I wouldn't have included this if we only had the first source. Not that they're saying they're unreliable, but that it has then been on to be like backed up by other sources. So, okay. The story of this over the past week, Tom Henderson, who is a YouTuber who leaked a lot of Battlefield information over the past couple of months, they claimed that GTA 6 was first going to be launching in 2024 or 2025, and that it would be set in a modern day Vice City, which, I mean, I suppose it's been long enough. Maybe if there are people watching, it's Rockstar's Miami, essentially. He said that the game map would evolve or expand over time, which sounds a lot like the bridges in Grand Theft Auto anyway, but we'll talk about that in a second, because he said like maybe it's through DLC, and that it would have multiple characters and that one of them would be a woman. Henderson did also say, you know, take all of this with a grain of salt, etc., as people will say when they're talking about leaks. Now, Then Bloomberg man, Jason Schreier, he got into the conversation on Twitter and he said, quote, everything Tom Henderson has said about the game matches up with what I've heard. I haven't seen anything, but it's still in early in development. It has an evolving / expanding map, which I also reported last year, etc. And then after that, VGC.
Look at him trying to gazump that story. Well, I
said
which
it
I
last
reported
year.
last year. Yeah. Get over yourself.
VGC then they entered the conversation and they said that all of this, quote, matches what VGC has heard about the next GTA game from its own sources.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about it?
Cullum, it matches what I've heard from my sources too. Because you can say that, and it doesn't matter if you make it up, because no one holds you to account on any of this stuff, and it doesn't matter.
There you go. You can add the PC Gaming Weekspot's Matthew Castle to that list.
Yeah, I also heard this. And if it's not true, it's just because they changed their plans between now and then. So it's the old Nintendo Switch Pro all over again.
So
sorry, I'm still a bit sore about
that. I noticed, yeah. Well, look, you can probably play GTA 6 on an OLED screen as well, so that'll be all nice and pretty. But what do you think of that? All this talk, like, you know, Vice City is a much loved, maybe some would say, the most loved location in Grand Theft Autos of past. How would you feel going back to Miami? Would it lose something if it wasn't in the 80s?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that game's so kind of tapping into a particular like era of films. It would be, you know, like what Miami is like about today is quite different and kind of a bit more depressing. So I don't know if that would be as fun. Yeah, I like, you know, this sort of sounds legit, doesn't it? I mean, the thing that interests me the most about all of this is this sort of talk of an expanding game and a sort of an expanding ongoing project. Obviously sounds very kind of GTA Online-esque. Not that map has changed massively, but you know, they've added a location, and anything that does get added to GTA 5, it's GTA Online that develops, not the game itself. Yeah. And I have been interested about like how Rockstar are going to balance their like single player traditional campaign with the kind of online thing that makes them all the money in the world. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that description of like an expanding thing sounds more like an online relationship rather than an amazing single player campaign where they keep adding new chunks of the city and new chunks of single player content, because that just isn't what they are, and they haven't been that for the last, 10 years.
I can't remember, so I'm hoping you can. The Ballad of Gay Tony and, whatever the motorbike, I can't remember what that was called.
Lost in the Damned.
Lost in the Damned, that was it. Did they take place within the world, or did they add locations?
They did. It put like a Lost in the Damned definitely put like a slightly sort of visual filter on it, so it all looked a bit kind of like grittier and a bit more downbeat. I don't think it like actually changed the map at all, but you know, they used bits of the map that weren't used commonly in the main campaign. But I mean, like that, like as a way of doing like single player expansions is kind of brilliant. Like you build this huge world, you can only use a fraction of it in your main campaign. So the idea of kind of recycling the city as it is, I've got no problems with that. Like it's a real shame that Rockstar didn't do that with GTA 5 for single player content at least, and Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, it doesn't look like we're going to get any, you know, they're not going to do an Undead Nightmare with that. So yeah, it's just kind of hard to picture like Rockstar as they are now kind of doing that kind of single player campaign. How do you feel about it?
I'm in agreement because of what you already said, in that GTA Online has, you know, like the amount of money they make off that on a daily basis must be frightening. So, but I do, they probably appreciate where their bread is buttered, and that, like, you know, a lot of people are expecting a Grand Theft Auto 6, and maybe they're, you know, gonna just, like, you know, put in the work and do that, but still have a GTA Online 2 attached to it or whatever. Yeah,
I mean, what they could, like, what one thing you could do is do a, like, 80s campaign, Vice City, like, the Vice City you know and love anyway, really that energy. And then, like, the evolving element of it is a bit like, in the way that Fortnite, the island, has sort of changed over time, is that your online experience reflects the change of time.
Right.
So you go through different eras of crime and the city can physically change because of that, but you can still revert it to play the 80s version in your single player campaign. That could be quite cool to see, like, you know, building sites become buildings. And so it, you know, different eras of crime have got different, like, flavors, different technology.
The only thing, and it's something you said a second ago, like, the 80s is, like, it's all wrapped up in Vice City. It feels like, you know, if you played it, like, it's Scarface. It is, like, it's the kind of, like, the sex, drugs and rock and roll of the 80s in Miami. It's decadence. It's Danny Dyer as Kent Paul. Like, it is, I don't know if that, and to be fair, like, you know, we are speculating. Nothing was mentioned about what era this would be set in or whether, you know, you would be Tommy Vercetti again or anything like that. But I think something would be lost if you, maybe not, I don't know. But like, right now I feel like something would be lost if this wasn't within that time frame. The expanding world. Yeah, I mean, it does feel like more of a GTA Online thing, all right, doesn't it? Like, because haven't they added, like, you know, a casino? Like, didn't they do a casino one a few months back? And they had, like, they've added locations in GTA Online. So I don't know whether they would do it here. As far as a female protagonist, like, that would be terrific, because it would be, you know, a different point of view within the world of GTA that, like, we have never gotten in whatever. Well, technically, I suppose in the original GTA, you could put, like, you're literally a small little blob on the screen. You could pick, I think, couldn't you? I think you could pick your playable character. But yeah, I'd like to see what Rockstar would do with that, especially after Red Dead Redemption 2. Which in my view is Rockstar's greatest story and greatest characterization, far better than any of the GTAs. But
yeah, I'd agree with that. I like the fun of. I think GTA 5 was.
That is fair.
Like
it is
a really
more
fun, sort of silly campaign. I like the silliness of it. I mean, there's always this risk of Rockstar kind of doing something quite kind of worthy and serious, which wouldn't fit the kind of, like, the mad 80s vibe of Miami Vice or Vice City, Miami Vice. So you never really know what Rockstar's going to turn up. You know, like Red Dead 2, it's quite classy, kind of like
it's HBO,
mature Rockstar.
No, it is.
Where. Yeah, like, there's definitely, like, storytelling stuff in Red Dead 2 I'd love to see in, come into a GTA. Like, I love the whole gang sort of dynamic. The fact that you had, like, 20 people who you kind of, you know, introduced all these characters at the start who then came through the game with you, rather than you're just, like, the guy who meets 30 NPCs dotted around the map. I love this sort of, like, the sort of setup of the camps and the nature of the gang. And you could definitely see that working in a GTA, you know, kind of going into your club and there's all the characters who kind of work as your organization or whatever and that kind of stuff. And seeing their storylines unfold over the game. I'd love to see more of that kind of stuff, you know, from Red Dead 2 in a GTA story.
And it is a bit, or you expect a GTA to be a bit sillier and more humorous, I suppose, than a Red Dead. and you expected GTA to satirize America. That's what the game has done and will presumably always do, and that's kind of why they'll never go back to like London or whatever else. I think it's a series that is always going to be in America, and it probably should be. But I like if they do end up going to Vice City and going to the 80s, I would welcome that as well, because how do you satirize America in 2021? Like, it satirizes itself. The world there is no. It's very hard to do a takedown when all you have to do is look at the news and you go, okay, right,
Yeah.
So I think setting it in a different time period would also benefit the game and the story and whatever else they're trying to do. But it will, if this does come out between 2023 or did I say 2024 and 2025? But it will be like between either 11 or 12 years since Grand Theft Auto 5 when this comes out. If it does come out in one of those years. That's mad. It
is a shame when you look back on those earlier years, like, sort of how fast they banged out like 3 Vice City and San Andreas.
That was unbelievably quick.
Yeah. Oh God, it's just I know that everyone has like bigger ambitions these days, and just the production costs and the sort of fidelity of the world slow you down, but it's sort of this idea of like, oh, you're only getting one of these a decade is kind of sort of, it feels like the hobby is slowing down. Like being into video games is slowing down.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was also mentioned, to be fair, that, and maybe this is why this is taking a bit longer, that Rockstar, because when you think back to Red Dead Redemption 2, a lot of the news surrounding the release before it came out was like the crunch culture there and people working like 100-hour weeks and all that. So, and apparently that's something Rockstar have become committed to, is like, right, well, we can't do that again. So, and maybe that's going to result in the game taking a bit longer, or either has resulted in the game taking a bit longer. And if that's the case, that's fine. Like, there are other games and I will play them and it's fine. Don't worry about it. So, but we'll see. Grand Theft Auto 6 will be an exciting video game to play, Matthew. I know you'll be excited to play it. I will be excited to play it. But the one thing I don't think Grand Theft Auto 6 will be is a live service. It doesn't seem like that's the conversation
it sounds
around
like it will be.
Sorry, I'm just trying. I'm trying.
Your attempts to segue. That's exactly what it sounds like. I'm trying
to segue whilst also clicking a lot of different buttons for the next bit. But anyway, right? Because I've clicked all the buttons now, so I can segue more naturally. Assassin's Creed.
Oh, here we go. Right.
This is going to be a live service. Apparently, Ubisoft is making Assassin's Creed into a live service called Assassin's Creed Infinity. So this came from, here he is again, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier.
The Jason Schreier Weekspot at this rate.
He said that, quote, Infinity will contain multiple settings with room to expand to others in the months and years following its debut. Said the people who asked not to be identified discussing a project under development. Individual games on the platform might look and feel different, but they will all be connected. He also added that it's going to be set to be launching in 2024. He said, because Ubisoft then confirmed that this is happening, at least. They didn't go into any details, but they said that it was, a spokesperson said to Schreier, a collaborative cross-studio structure between Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft Quebec. Montreal did Valhalla, Origins and Unity, while Quebec did Odyssey and Syndicate. But yeah, at the moment, that's all we know. Now, Assassin's Creed is a series that I myself have, as the years have gone on, have lost interest, because it's the regularity or the frequency with which they've come out has just been far too great for me. I know they've slowed down in more recent years, but when it was every year and it all felt very similar, I was like, all right, I don't think Assassin's Creed is for me anymore. Now, you played Valhalla. You very much enjoyed it. I think you said it was like one of your more favorite Assassin's Creeds you'd played in a while. How does this Assassin's Creed Infinity sound to you? Because it again, like it's all speculation. We kind of don't know the shape of this really, but it sounds like, you know, you'll have your sort of launcher and like individual stories or something.
You can sort of see the through line from like what they're currently doing, in that they build these huge open worlds and it has like live service elements, like seasons of contents that update and add to it. I think my problem with that is if you don't get hooked just on the kind of cycle and the routine of just playing something for the sake of like ticking off those objectives, you know, if you just take the game as a whole, you know, I finished Assassin's Creed Valhalla and I have no desire or no need to unlock anything else. You know, I finished the story. Like I in my head, I struggle to see how the value of that extra content, because you've already achieved what you needed to achieve, like narratively in the game.
Yeah. And
it literally just exists for its own right. You know, whenever they're like, we're adding some even more powerful weapons, and you're like, what do you need them for? Like, we've defeated the big bad of the game. I mean, and you're not adding a bigger bad. It's just there for the sake of like eating people's time. But people are into that, you know. So I can understand, you know, I know people who play Assassin's Creed like it's Animal Crossing or something. They play a bit of it every day or every week, and that I just like that does not compute. So maybe that makes it sort of harder to. What am I writing in the snow?
I think you're doing a Willy. For those listening at home, yes, it is. For those listening at home, where there's Assassin's Creed Valhalla footage on the screen.
No, I wrote RPS.
Oh, you did. Okay, well done.
All right. Okay, in the snow. That's good. Nice one. I have literally no recollection of doing that.
Any thoughts on Assassin's Creed Infinity?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I got absolutely distracted by my own hijinks. Very podcast unfriendly. Apologies. Yeah, but like what it does have is a concept and a setup that totally supports that. You know, I think it's Assassin's Creed Unity that opens. Like literally with your play, like Assassin's Creed Unity is an episode of a video game that you're playing. And there's like a menu screen of stories. It's not real. You can't click on the other ones, but you basically select the French, the French history story and Assassin's Creed Unity begins, because that is the setup of the game, isn't it? Abstergo are a big video games company.
That's where your the present day stuff is set in a developer. Yeah. Okay, that's that one.
So so that makes sense. They've got, you know, they could literally just have that interface and have you drop in. I mean, the idea of like different self-contained sort of historical settings, like, wouldn't be wildly dissimilar from what they've done with, you know, their DLC these days is getting more and more substantial. Like they recently did the Ireland DLC.
They're going to do France.
A huge landmass that really has no relation to the map you were originally playing on. So you can just drop into that place and pick the game up from there. So that all makes sense. Like it's quite easy to envision what this game would be. And what it's so harder to envisage is exactly like, is it the same action RPG? Like, is it a Valhalla-esque action RPG? You would think so. Based on like, that gives you the scope for character development and stats and loot and all the stuff you need to sustain, you know, a game with that kind of tale. But then would it just feel like, you know, like an endless just reskinning the same game? Because that is the problem with like the Ireland DLC of Valhalla. You just go there and you're like, the accents are different, but I've got the same character doing the same moves. It's got exactly the same rhythm to the combat, the same gameplay loop. You know, what's kind of interesting about the standalone games as they've currently been is that the historical setting invites you to change stuff. You know, if they were saying that you had this base game and there are substantial mechanical differences between the different historical periods, I'd be interested in that. Like, if you did a more modern period, melee weaponry probably wouldn't make as much sense. Like, we'd finally have to address a more ranged combat world, for example.
Is that what this sounds like to you, though? Because what I get from this is, we'll make Assassin's Creed, like, you know, we'll have the kind of base level of what the mechanics are and how you interact with the game, etc. And then there may be little changes here and there, but I know it's not what it sounds like. It's what you'd hope it would be. Yeah,
you know, I played Valhalla for like 100 hours, which is more than a lot of people could probably stomach it. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I really cleaned that stuff out. But like, I am done with it. I have like no more desire to play with any of these. Like, there's nothing that game could do. There's nothing it could add that would make that more exciting to me. You know, other than like radically reinventing itself mechanically, which it just can't do, or it's not going to do. Like that isn't how you do DLC and expansions. So the idea of like this sounds like, hey, if you liked Valhalla, would you like a version of Assassin's Creed which you could play for 500, 1,000 hours? The answer would be no. Like, you know, unless, you know, the only way you could probably get away with something like that is having just to slow down like the power arc of the game so much that it would basically be unbearable. Like that, you know, the only way you could sustain 300 hours Assassin's Creed, you know, is if you have, you know, what you achieve with Ava in 100 hours spread longer, you know, slowing down the skill unlocks or whatever. Like, it's just not deep or mechanically complex enough to kind of go anywhere, I think.
Do you
but then maybe that's, if they've cracked that would be maybe that's the key to it. Maybe they have worked out you know, a new skill system, or they're happy with the people who are happy with that, if that makes sense. You know, like, I am not one of them, but there are people who will play 5,000 hours of Destiny 2, which is just basically the game that they were playing for the first 10 hours, but they've played it for 5,000 hours because they like the feel of the guns enough. I guess I don't like the feel of Assassin's Creed combat enough. Like, just the act of playing Assassin's Creed is not pleasurable enough that it is what I would just do to kill time.
Well, that was going to be my question, because it's an easy shorthand that we all understand. Would there be, talking about the live service and, you know, all that, like, would there be any hope/danger, depending on how, you know, you see things, that they would turn this into a Destiny and make it like a mix between, was it Unity was the one where you had that put a focus on
like quite an arbitrary co-op element,
or you know, but they've kind of dabbled before.
But that is the defining factor of these live service games. The substantial ones is that they are online. Like, I get the impression most people, they basically treat them like it's more of a hangout than it is a game. Like, what they actually want to do is hang out and talk to their mates in Destiny 2 over Discord or whatever while they're playing Destiny 2. And Destiny 2 is just an excuse for them all to be in the same place at the same time. Like, a single player version of that, I think, could be quite lonely and repetitive and unbearable. Like, so you'd think, would there be infinite stuff? It's very it's kind of very hard to sort of place this, because to me it feels like it's a beloved single player thing still, and they've had as much success as anyone has had in the live service space with a single player game. I think, you know, that people do play, you know, Assassin's Creed Odyssey for 2 years after it comes out is about as successful a version of that as I've heard of, unless there's like an obvious, you know, like something really weird like Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley aside, which are, you know, have like a very different like mechanical lean, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
But something like this, just, I don't know, there's just only so much action in these games that there's only so much variety they can serve up.
I mean, they did introduce it was introduced in the last one, wasn't it? The like, you know, having your settlement and like maybe they do make that more Stardewy Animal Crossing.
But that's the thing, like short of filling it with actual proper crafting and resources and all kinds of weird stuff like that. Like at the moment, Assassin's Creed is still quite a gamey game, you know. Like, yes, you've got a settlement, but there's like one fixed resource to grow that settlement, and you get it from doing like these 12, you know, you raid these 12 monasteries, and then you have all the resources, you upgrade everything to max, and it's all very neat. It's all very, like, it's designed as a big, simple checklist for people to do across 100 hours. Like that kind of, that level of complexity, I just don't see how that can sustain hundreds and hundreds
of hours. Yeah.
Like, to me, it just feels like, you know, Valhalla was absolutely pushing its luck being a 100-hour game, like stretching it that far. It you know, I knew for like 50 of those hours, I have not done anything new in these 50 hours.
But it was still able to hold you for that 100 hours.
Yeah, but simply because of the stupid, like, must tick things off map, you know, like, but that isn't, I don't know, that doesn't feel like a win. Like, that doesn't feel like it's holding me with anything particularly sophisticated or meaningful. Like, that's just my stupid animal brain reacting to it. I don't know. It's...
Yeah,
hard to say. It's just I don't know. A little bit, like a little bit, would be sad to see it massively derailed and changed, because, you know, I do quite like these games. You know, these big sort of single player AAA games are there are fewer of them. You know, they're harder to invest in, or I guess so to just see everything swallowed up. To see everything become a game that you basically have to dedicate yourself to doesn't really reflect where I want, like, the hobby to go.
I'm right there with you. I don't
want to commit to one thing. I like the variety. I like video games because of the variety that they offer. But it's like it's all or nothing, and it's just a bit tiresome.
That's what, follow the money. And that's where Ubisoft are going.
Where would your dream Assassin's Creed historical setting be? Whatever Infinity is, if they included it, you'd be like, you know what, I am going to have to play that.
Yeah, I would probably play Ubisoft's version of the 1916 Easter Rising in Ireland. If you're unfamiliar, when my people rose up against your people. But I would be like, all right, you got me, Ubisoft, you got me. Why? Where would you? Feudal Japan? I know that's.
I mean, that's the one. It's become a bit of a cliche. I think ever since Assassin's Creed 2, people have been rumoring that the next Japan. Assassin's Creed would be set in Japan. I mean, yes, that would be awesome. I would be interested to see them do a more modern, to try and make the game work in a more modern urban setting. I mean, the worry is it might just become like, that might just be what Watch Dogs sort of is,
yeah. Well, I suppose, like, how modern?
Well, I'd love gangster Chicago kind of prohibition.
I think you could do that. What, is that Mafia? I don't know.
I mean, maybe they parkour, because it's just skyscrapers that you just fall off of, and you can't jump between. It's weird how much of Assassin's Creed is defined by whether the roads were just too wide. If it's like, at this point in history, the roads were too wide and the buildings were too high, so this game just doesn't really function. But I mean, to tell you the truth, I don't really care where they go. What I've always wanted is for them to actually do a proper, go back to it being about assassinations and assassination hit set pieces and assassinating people in an open world game. Lean more into the stealth rather than I think when you have you can play stealth or you can play action, just means it's sort of not one or the other. You gotta have guts to deliver a true stealth experience.
They 100% dropped. They'll say, "Oh, you can play stealth," and it's like, meh. I mean, I'm getting an equal reward for going in guns blazing or going in sneaky, which will take an extra 10 minutes. So like then it's kind of I'll just go in and just
the last one had a few like assassination missions which I really liked just because they're a bit more open world. They're like, this person's in this castle, you can approach it from multiple angles, you can kind of sneak in. There was nothing like clever, like Hitman-y. Do you remember when in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, when it went full on Hitman and they had like the assassination missions, which were like in interior locations, and there were like opportunities in Hitman, like you'd eavesdrop and people be like, he's going to go down to the cellar. Yeah, it's something I really liked about Syndicate. It's got these like only a handful of signature missions are like they are proper like nowhere near as good as Hitman levels, but they are kind
Hitman,
of
basically. Yeah,
like if you go to the cellar, you can like disguise yourself as a body and then stab them when they try and like do an autopsy on you and all this kind of stuff. It's sort of fun. It showed a vision of like, here's an open world full of like, you know, your usual open world gubbins. But when it comes to assassinations, it sort of becomes this slightly different game. We've got like quite, you know, enclosed levels embedded in the map. I'd love them to do something like that again. I thought that was a real like, ooh, they're onto something.
Well, I don't know. We'll see what kind of like. It would be good if there was variety with Assassin's Creed Infinity, and if like that could be a positive from it. If you do get more, like even if the mechanics are basically yes, you know, you have your hidden blade and you the more slow and deliberate combat that has been introduced in the past couple of ones, but the mission structure is changed, or there's more variety. Yeah, just when it comes to that. And also it might result in it's not gonna, I'm only fooling myself. I was gonna say like maybe like, oh, each story will be 10-12 hours long. They won't be at all. But Matthew, before we round the headlines and hot takes out, coming ahead is a right angle. Oh, it's Tech Corner. And Matthew, this week I'd like to ask you if you've done any wiring work in your house.
What's this related to? There isn't a story in Tech Corner. You've taken us to Tech Corner with no story.
You know, we spoke about your painting. We spoke about your windows.
No, I've never done any wiring. Probably the most
stick a HDMI into a PlayStation.
Yeah, I'd say the most exciting kind of like more delicate work I've done in the house was like fixing the inside of a door lock, like taking that apart.
Ooh.
But it's not electronic, but that's probably, I would class that requires a bit more finesse than just hitting something with a hammer.
And Matthew, that'll do me. So those are your headlines and hot takes this week. So now let's get on to the video games that we have been playing over the last 7 days.
Show and tell. We can't afford a proper jingle. It's meant to be jingle.
Yes! Show and tell is part of the PC Gaming Weekspot, where I, Colin Mahern, and he, Matthew Castle, who you can't see on screen right now if you're watching this, but you can now, where we tell you about the games that we've been playing over the last 7 days. And Matthew, you have played, I mean, to say you have been playing maybe be stretching the truth. Big yawn. Good boy. But yeah, a game that you have played, at least for a little bit, is King's Bounty 2. And I know very little about this. So,
Callum, I've got to put my hand up and say I know so little about King's Bounty and the King's Bounty series, and maybe you can boo and hiss this as PC brains watching or listening to this who do know about King's Bounty, and you're like, outrage. Why are we listening to this idiot? I'm going to put my hand up and say I know so little about King's Bounty 2. It actually surprised me when I was playing it as to what the game was. I thought this was going to just be a third-person RPG in the vein of The Witcher, because it kind of looks like that. Also, one of the main characters, I'm pretty sure is voiced by Doug Cockle, voice of Geralt.
Oh.
So, like, the main... but they've got this... Either he's putting on quite a different voice, or they've put this, like, weird filter on him, because he sounds like slow Geralt. Like, deeper.
Oh, okay.
Like they've slowed his voice down or something. It might just be a glitch in the build I was playing. I don't know. But,
okay, that's odd. But yeah, this isn't out yet. It's out. Do you know when it's out?
I should do. It's out this year. I think it's August.
I have that in my head that it's not
21st
too far away.
of August.
But yeah, so all right. Well,
yeah. Anyway, so it looks like this, it looks like a third-person action event, and you're like, okay, I know what this is. But then it turns out it's actually like more of a tactical battler where you fight with an army, not your main character.
Oh.
Right, yeah. So, and this is where the fans of King Bounty are like slapping their heads and they're like, yeah, that's the whole deal of this, you idiot. But this is, I'm just being honest about this. Is like, it actually surprised me. Like at the start of the game, I was getting like, swords and shields and all this kind of gubbins. And then a character was like, and I'll give you some men and some dogs. And I was like, that's weird. Well, they're just going to like follow me around. What's the deal with that? And then once I got into a fight, I was like, oh, I understand. So yeah, the battles fight like this. You have units on a grid and it is a tactical, position your enemies in strategically smart places. They've got ranged, you've got melee attacks. There are different, enemy types, and you are just trying to get your army to kill their army. So that's how little I knew about King's Bounty. This surprised me that this was the case. But it's also quite neat because you have your personal character development in that the skills you unlock kind of govern, like, they're things like morale boost for the army, or like your army levels up a bit faster because you're a natural commander. Like that was playing as this warrior class, where if you play as a wizard, you've got like, magics that you can use in battle because you're sort of standing at the back of your army, flinging spells at units to support your units while also governing them and moving them around. So yeah, it's sort of an RPG where you are represented in the everyday world with a single character, but you are managing the development of that character and an army by like employing units, healing them up. They can let the units themselves can like level up and change as you do more fights with them. So yeah, it's got a very different vibe. It's apparently this like third person sort of view, this more kind of grounded like RPG look is quite new to the series. Like traditionally it is all played from sort of more of a top down, like it's more obviously got like tactics in its bones.
Yeah.
But I think this is a nice way of like grounding you, placing you in that world, giving you an actual idea of what it's about. It also means that like when you start fights, they it isn't whisking you away to like an abstract battlefield. They happen in the areas where you're exploring. Okay. So, the settings, you can sort of see them firsthand, but then you also see them from this top-down view and you get like the impression of the, they're not just, it's not just there to look pretty is what I'm saying. Like the topography and what obstacles are in the way kind of have an impact on the battles you're playing as well. This isn't my footage, I'll say. This is just B-roll of a slightly later battle. I only played like the first little chunk of this demo, so I was kind of mainly getting my head around what it actually was. Yeah. There's some nice stuff. I quite like kind of smaller enclosed tactics games. Like I'm not a fan of like real-time strategy where you're having to build lots of units. That's a little bit too kind of multitasking for me. But here where you've got like fixed things and you're going in, it's a bit more like, I don't know, Fire Emblem or something, which I can kind of get my head around. I like that the character has like all the decisions they make develops what they lean towards. I think it's like anarchy and order and maybe like magic and like power or something of the other different axes. And depending on like the decisions you make, you push further towards them, and then that has a clear impact on choices you can make in missions. So, for example, very, very early on, because I'm a warrior character, I don't have the magical leaning to help sort of remove some runes that are protecting someone.
Right,
so I can't ask for his help to stop these golems. So I have to fight the golems instead, which further pushes me on my kind of violence path. I think the implications are that your leaning will either play well or it won't with certain unit types as well. So like the nature of the army you're building will kind of reflect the character you've kind of created with your decisions. Obviously, the outcome of certain story missions will change based on what you do and don't decide. So, there's sort of a lot going on there. I mean, the thing I would say is like, if you're watching this third person stuff and going like, oh, wow, it's going to be like The Witcher, it's not. I would say the world feels a little bit like a very fancy world map at times.
Okay, so what? Just that there isn't an awful lot to do there?
Because there's not like enemies aren't just going to jump out the bushes, because you're not going to do any, because every fight is this tactical map.
Yeah.
It's a bit more kind of like stop-start rather than you can't just leave you're not going to leave the path, go into the forest and like kill a wolf, for example.
Yeah.
There are very clear routes around the map that, at least in this early map, there's very clear like linear paths around it. It actually reminded me a little bit of like if you made a 3D world map that you could sort of explore in third person of the kind of the world map from Thronebreaker, the Witcher RPG, card game RPG, because that was a similar thing. There you're basically walking around going to like battle nodes to start a game of Gwent. Where here you're walking until you encounter something and then it starts this tactical map. But it definitely feels like a lot of effort's gone into make this world feel grand and big. Like you can easily picture a version of this where it doesn't have this map that you can explore, where you feel a bit more distant from the world. So, it sort of feels like they've kind of gone all out, which I quite like.
Did you get it? Like, did you enjoy the exploring, the story, the character? Like, was any of that compelling?
A little bit. I'd say it's a little bit like maybe like high fantasy for my taste. It's all kind of dwarves and wizards and all this kind of stuff, where I like the slightly kind of grubbier tone of like The Witcher.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've only played like a couple of hours of it, so I really feel like I haven't really got deep into it, and it's going to be a big old substantial RPG, and it seems like something I would I will enjoy playing more of, and I'm definitely intrigued to play more of it. I think more than anything, it was just a bit of it just wasn't what I was expecting, and maybe if you have more of a background with this series, that won't be the case and it'll all make perfect sense. But I can almost sort of see like there's a version of this game where you could market it in one way to like draw in like Witcher fans, and then they might bounce off that tactical combat because they appeal to slightly different bits of your brain, I think.
Yeah.
But I kind of the sort of flip side of that is it's quite rare to see a game with that kind of sort of tactics combat, which does have this like mega production value kind of world to explore in between, which is quite fun. So yeah, I'm like, color me intrigued and surprised and embarrassed for not knowing the illustrious history of King's Bounty.
Listen, I am right there with you. So, if you like the first one.
I bet that I'd be sad if the Weekspot has now lost its like one diehard King's Bounty fan.
That would
Fuck this!
I think if they are, they would be, you're relatively, you said you enjoyed it a bit. So, yeah, lovely stuff. We are going to take a very quick break, even. We won't be baking anything within that break. It's too long. And we will be right back after this. I have a sneaking suspicion that you're a big fan of independently made video games. If you're looking for a few to stick on the wish list before they launch, then you should watch Indies Uncovered, which is happening this week as part of PAX Online East on Thursday the 15th of July, Friday the 16th of July, and Saturday the 17th of July. You can watch myself, Colin Mahern, and Matthew Castle play some indie games. On those days I've already mentioned, just go to twitch.tv/PAX2 at 5:30pm BST and you'll be able to see us play some indie games. Isn't that nice? We'll be playing through 3 indie games on each day for an hour, and it's definitely worth a look, because you never know, you might be taken by one of the games that we play. So once again, because they say repeating things is good, this Thursday, Friday and Saturday, starting at 5:30pm and finishing at 6:30pm UK time, myself, Colm and Matthew will be playing through some indie games as part of Indies Uncovered on twitch.tv/PAX2. Go there, it'll be fun. Games, independently made, yes. And we're back. Which is good and expected, I suppose, that we would be back. Because, often, Matthew, when you fling something in one direction, it will come back to you. Well, I say often. There's one thing that does that, and it is a boomerang.
All right.
And
your segues are on point today.
Thank you very much.
If there was a
top
World
class
Cup for segues,
Mm-hmm.
Ireland would win with you.
World champs. Boomerang X is the game that I've played over the past week. This is from Dang Studios, I think it's called. And yeah, this is a classic arena first-person shooter where you don't have a gun. Instead, you have this... I mean, it's called a boomerang, but it's like this large shuriken type thing that you fling around in these combat arenas while enemies are coming at you in waves. And in each wave, you don't have to kill all the enemies. You just have to defeat a certain number of them with little yellow markers above their heads. And then, once you go through all the waves, you move on to the next arena. No, it isn't all just like, fling the boomerang at them and get it back. Like in between these rooms of the little kind of shadowy enemies with glowy red weak spots, you're often picking up new abilities to use in the next combat arena. So it's not just the same room to room to room thing. Like you'll get these like magic scatter shot things and magic sniper shot, and you can slow down time and all that. But yeah, the boomerang is obviously the main thing. Now, what makes this game stand out is that your boomerang acts as both your weapon and your mode of transport, for lack of a better term, around these arenas. Because a lot of these battles, they can take place either on the air, or in the air, or on platforms, suspended platforms. And your boomerang is magic. Or your magic, right. I don't know. But anyway,
something is magic.
Something is magic. When you fling the boomerang, you can magically teleport to the boomerang after you fling it. So, great at smashing in faces, but also terrific at reaching those hard to reach places as well. And when you get decent enough at it, which I probably didn't, I was alright at it, but you can spend a lot or a large portion of these combat arenas just suspended in the air, just constantly, flinging and teleporting. And when you get in that groove, it's terrifically satisfying. And like even those enemies I speak of, some of them are just some of them are one-hit kills, but some of larger enemies will have a few glowy red points on them, and you have to try and navigate your way around it whilst also kind of remaining airborne, basically. But that even it doesn't help you just get around in the sky because like your character is very slow on foot as well, which at first is super annoying, and I thought, hang on, what is this about? But when you're introduced to the teleportation, it kind of becomes a bit clearer that the game is good at like making you realize, from kind of the word go, you need to be using this boomerang and constantly going around these arenas. It's only about, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours. It's fairly short. Now the one thing I will say, like, exhilarating in the moment, and going around just constantly trying to avoid the attacks from enemies, and going up to these high areas and flying around these arenas. It's not great at just, I don't know, compelling you to just see it through.
Right.
Like, this is a game made for speedrunners. Speedrunners will bloody love this thing. I think I should have checked beforehand, but I think there's even an option in the options where you can turn on a kind of a speedrun clock. Because it's built for that. Like, it's fast, go in and try and kill as many enemies as you possibly can, move on to the next area. It's all that. Now, the actual, like, the reason for doing this, and because I'm coming at it not from a speedrunning point of view, is just very wishy-washy and quite just meh, really. Like, you've ended up on this, again, magical island. Something is magical, and it's overrun by these shadowy creatures. And in between the arenas, you're funneled through corridors, and occasionally you see a centipede who's nice, and they'll say like, "Oh yeah, this island used to be great," and then these kind of shadowy black insects came along and fucked the whole place up. And you're like, "Okay, cool. Can you show me the way to the next room of insects, please?" So it's, it is. I don't want. It's not a proof of concept, but like, because again, in the moment to moment, very good. Very like it's enjoyable. It's very thrilling, but just, I don't know, kind of lacking some drive for why you'd kind of want to see it through, essentially. But
the pull of just like what cool combat thing it does next isn't just enough to.
Not really, and I thought at first it would be,
because it's not like, a lot of these sort of fast-paced hyperkinetic shooters. They're not like big on story. They're just like the energy of the thing kind of drags you through.
Totally. But the I don't know. Whilst they do introduce, like in between the arenas, they do introduce these new attacks and whatever. I don't know, just none of them are, I suppose there isn't enough variety there to, again, to kind of drive you through. Like, the boomerang as a weapon, really enjoyable, and I like the fast-paced nature of it. Again, it's a bit of a throwback in that sense. Go into the arena, kill all the enemies, or kill the relevant enemies. Just, like, I'm still positive. Like, it's good. It is good. But definitely, like, if you're going to lap this up, and if you're going to, like, go, again, I can better my time, maybe you'll get more out of it. Just for me, like, when it comes to this, I'm going to be a one and done type of guy. And for those, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, like, it's good. It's all right. An enjoyable time, an enjoyable romp through this magical island. I'm magical, the boomerang's magical. Who knows? Something is magical. So those are the games that we've played over the past 7 days. So now it's time to test the knowledge of one another in a little game we like to call Mystery Steam Reviews. Mystery Steam Reviews is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where I, Colin Mahern, and he, Matthew Castle, test the knowledge of one another via Steam reviews. They're a mystery. And the rules are as follows. Both I and Matthew bring only three Steam reviews to the MSR arena, but we omit the name of the game associated with each review. Our opponent must correctly guess the game attached to each review. One correct answer equals 1 point. While both of us have 90 seconds on each MSR, we both also have help in the form of 3 lifelines. These lifelines can be used at any stage during battle and also pause the 90-second timer. Each lifeline, however, can only be used once, and they are as follows. Publisher, where the hot seat haver learns the publisher of the game. Second opinion, where a second review is given to the fiery chair sitter. And genre, where the genre of the game is revealed to the one with the warm arse. Now, Matthew, I want you to be succinct. I want you to embrace brevity, because this week's theme is about one-word title video games. This is one I feel like I don't have to give examples for or explain further. Games with only one word in the name. I think our audience is intelligent enough to follow along. So, Matthew, would you like your first Mystery Steam review?
Hit me up.
What a weird game. Destroying objects, the powers, and the look of the game are really cool. But I just can't find myself to like it. Respawning enemies when you leave an area after you just cleared it a few minutes ago makes exploring rather annoying. Janky movement and weird momentum of the character makes it feel like you are controlling a wobblehead figure. And that's from Captain Warlord. It is not recommended. 1.2 hours on record. Matthew, your time starts now.
Oh man, I'm instantly blanking. I felt panic setting in as this one unfolded. What a weird game. Destroying objects, the powers. You're gonna have to hit me with the publisher. I need to focus in on this one.
Okay, pausing the timer at 1:12.
It's important to get momentum early on, you see.
Pausing the timer at 1:12. The publisher. So, according to steampowered.com, the publisher of this game is one that I forgot to write down. I'm normally quite good at that, and I forgot this one. So just to make sure everything is above board, I will give you it in 2 seconds. The publisher of this is 505 Games. 505 Games.
505 Games.
Restarting the timer, 1:12 now.
Yeah. That doesn't help massively. Oh, actually, no, it does. Control. Good powers. You go in and out of the thing. Oh, control. The movement in control isn't that bad. It doesn't feel like you're controlling a wobblehead figure. But you destroy objects. Good powers. You go out of the room, you come back. There might be enemies later. They don't instantly respawn, but they can. They will in time. I think this is control. Is that on Steam? That's on Steam.
Final answer.
That's my final answer.
Alright, at first, a lot of information in that review. Talking about janky movement, but mentioned the powers and all that. You needed the publisher to tip you over the edge. 505 Games. You're thinking, it sounds like that there, Jesse Faden. You've ended up saying control, and Matthew, I can tell you that the correct answer is control.
Oh. Thank you, Publisher Clue.
Good work. Matthew, could I have my first Mystery Steam review, please?
The style was unique, the artwork beautiful, and the story was interesting. Thinking I would need evidence to investigate, I gathered every note, took pictures of everything pertinent to the story, like I was working for NYPD Forensics. None of that ended up mattering. Instead, I was just shown all of my evidence photos during the credits, like they were vacation slides. Says Christopher Walken. Not recommended. After 4 hours.
Time starts now. Ooh, talking about being stumped, Matthew. Oh dear. Story was like I was working for it, but I think that's a red herring. It's not going to be about like you're a cop or whatever. Oh dear, I'm going to have to use one of my lifelines as well, but I'm not entirely sure. Because I'm just pulling a serious blank, I think I'm going to have to go for the biggie. Pausing the timer at 1:04. Matthew, could I have the second opinion, please?
Your second opinion? Paying $20 for a 3-hour walking simulator that you'll only play once is bad enough, but the ending takes the cake. They build a story with great potential and then fail to follow through in the ending.
Okay, restart the timer 104 now. The only Okay, well, I was going to say the only game I can think of was... You could classify Oxenfree, you know, you could say that as a walking simulator if you want to be derogatory.
Did you take pictures in Oxenfree?
But also, the other game that came to my head was Firewatch. I'm trying to remember. You do take pictures, don't you? But is there some sort of like montage at the end? You do go, you know, you think you're going to live the quiet life in the tower, and then you have to go all yeah, let's say Firewatch.
Is that your final answer?
Chris, that is my final answer.
So, you saw talk of cameras, NYPD forensics, you avoided the police link, probably a smart move. Second opinion, basically all it told you was a walking simulator, and you've said Firewatch. But the correct answer is Firewatch.
Yes!
Nice.
Go on, my son.
That is like 2 clean penalty shots in. He's there. I didn't realise instantly in the football they do that thing where they like run up and then stop and then do it. I thought you only did that on the playground.
So you're not actually allowed to... So the reason the stutter run came in, well, was one, kind of mind games, but also, I think I'm getting this right, you can't stop dead, which is why you'll see like some people like do a kind of a short little jog and then maybe speed up in a short little jog. But yeah, you can't just like run and stop and like fake kick it over there and then kick it over there. But yeah.
They don't do that thing that used to happen on the playground where one person runs past it, and then another person runs up from the side and does it.
That would be exciting if that was allowed.
Not any of the people who are standing in the wall can just run and do it.
Matthew,
yeah.
Your second mystery Steam review is as follows. Cool Mexican guy goes to save his GF, and he dies, and come back to life, and he is shirtless all the game. So have fun. And that's from Zik. It is recommended 31.6 hours on record, 17.3 hours at review time. Matthew, your time starts now.
I mean, this sounds like Guacamole. Mexican guy, he dies, he comes back, he's shirtless. I think he's shirtless. He's like a wrestler guy. The wrestlers don't wear shirts. There's no shirt big enough for a wrestler's muscles. Everyone knows that. I think, I thought it was called Guacamole, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe that wasn't on PC. It was just called Guacamole. Yeah, listen, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to save those clues for the end. I'm going to say Guacamole.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
Almost straight away, Matthew. Recognizing that in Guacamole, you play as a Mexican luchador who is indeed shirtless. Spoke about a Mexican guy talking about the dead. Matthew, I can tell you that the correct answer is Guacamole. That was a confident strike. That was top bins, that. Matthew, could I have my second Mystery Steam review, please?
Make sure you flip your character and not your desk. Says flips. They recommend it. 5.7 hours on record.
Time starts
See,
now.
as a goalkeeper, one of my tactics to distract you is to say it in a funny voice.
And it seems like you have, because make sure you flip your character and not your desk. Make sure you flip your character and not your desk. Let's try and parse what that means. Flip your character. Because all I have in my head now is control, naturally enough. Because, you know, you're flipping objects around the world, but you never really flip Jesse Faden as such.
You do not flip her.
You levitate and you punch and you magic powers, but do you flip? Oh.
Do you flip a Faden?
How confident am I just shoot this, or am I going to have to ask my manager for guidance before I take the shot? I am going to... Oh. I'm playing a risky game, but I want to make sure. Pausing timer 22. Matthew, could I use my publisher lifeline, please?
The publisher of this is Terry Kavanagh.
Oh, right. Oh, because I thought it was going to be Fez. Okay, restarting the timer. 22 seconds now. VVV? I've never played... Or did I? Do you flip your character? Oh. VVV is all I have. Flip your character and not... Or flip... Oh, I can't remember. Flip your character and not the desk. You don't... Super Hexagon, you don't... VVV.
Just to clarify, how many V's is that?
I believe it's 6. VVV.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
So, you thought Control, you thought maybe Fez, but you got the publisher, Terry Kavanagh. He did indeed make a game called VVV. But is it the correct answer? The correct answer is... VVV.
Oh, I'm glad I used that publisher because... Yeah, I was like, ooh, this could be Fez, but obviously not. Happy enough. Went in off the
going on
post.
Today. Good lifelines.
Matthew. Oh, for this very, very high scoring affair, this one. Matthew, for your third and final Mystery Steam review today. Went fast down a mountain, hit a rock, exceeded 60 Gs, and survived. Very good. And that's from Lazy Fingers to B. It is recommended 13 hours on record, 5.5 hours at review time. Matthew, your time starts now.
See, mountain, I instantly think steep, but exceeded 60 Gs and survived. Is that speed? That's very fast, isn't it? 60 Gs, what does that mean? What speed is Gs? Can I get my second opinion and genre, please?
You can. Pausing timer 109.
60 Gs, I have no idea. Like, is there a special speed that only skiers adhere to?
So your second opinion and your genre is... So second opinion, beautiful open world and coolest soundtrack in game. Best sports game, what I played, what I still play. I highly recommend. And the genre, indeed, is a sports video game.
Oh, this has to be steep. I thought
Restart
for a second it could be
now.
Journey. And it was like going down a thing and 60 Gs like might be like a weird achievement or something. I don't know. Yeah. I'm going to say steep.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
So the mountain part of it and going down fast, you were like, this is steep, written all over it, but it was that 60 Gs, which of course, you're a high roller, Matthew, you think money. So you were like, what's 60 Gs mean here? So, using your second opinion and your genre lifeline, mentioned it being an open world, a sports game. Matthew, I can tell you that the correct answer is... steep!
Oh, 3 for 3.
That is some fine work, Matthew. You've put the pressure on the opposing kicker. So let us see if this doesn't normally happen in a penalty shootout, but let us see if we end in a draw.
If it is a draw, I am gonna wreck some stuff.
Okay.
I've got a flare ready.
A flare ready. There's a PC world around the corner. Matthew, could I have my third and final Mystery Steam review, please?
Yeah. It's nearly faultless. Crappy final level boss syndrome doesn't stop the brilliantly written characters, amazing mental environments, and powerfully fun abilities from making it a true classic, says Snake Man Ewan, who recommends it 14.8 hours on record.
Time starts now. Right. Why bother waste time? 1:23, let's pause the timer. Could I have my genre lifeline, Matthew, please? So this could be one of two games. Book one, what's my genre?
It's a platforming game.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna unpause the timer at 1:23 because I was just like, will I go for it? So I was like, this is a very cleverly picked review because this sounds a lot, or it could be Control, because I was thinking it's either Control or Psychonauts, but I'm pretty sure Control isn't a platform game or would be described as such on Wikipedia. I could be wrong. You know, you jump on things in Control. So, but I think I am going to say Psychonauts. Final answer.
Is that your final answer?
It is my final answer, Chris.
So it feels like you're betting an awful lot here on Wikipedia not shitting the bed. Which is bold.
The meat circus as well, so.
The correct answer is Psychonauts. Oh.
Right, well, listen, Matthew, I won't keep you because I know you need to go out there and start helicoptering your willy around the place. But yeah, good game. So that is, but you'll hang on for a bit of burning questions first.
Of course.
Of course. Let's turn to the lovely people and their burning questions. Yes, burning questions are the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where indeed we take your burning questions, your correspondence. You can email us at any stage throughout the week, weekspot@rockpapershotgun.com, and then we may read out your emails on the show. This week, Matthew, we start off with the wonderful Mog, who gave us 10 English pounds during the YouTube premiere for a YouTube super chat during the last episode of the PC Gaming Weekspot. Thank you very much, Mog. It's very nice of you. Mog said, congratulations to the new RPS EIC. What do you think makes a good EIC? And out of those you have worked with, do you have any particular favourites? Thank you very much, Mog. Pass on the message to, yes, new Rock Paper Shotgun boss, Catherine Castle. So, this is news to Matthew.
What? So that's what she does all day.
What do you think, Matthew, makes a good editor-in-chief?
I really there are a million different things you can do, and it kind of depends on what you're trying to achieve. I would say it's more about like creating a space where good writers can kind of do their thing. Something I've said about Graham, who was the old editor-in-chief of RPS when I worked under him, was very good at kind of giving you like a long leash to do your thing. But also, if you ever did kind of hit any stumbles or you had any questions, like had guidance ready to offer and good guidance, I'd say it's kind of like, for me personally, that's what I want from an editor in general. Someone who kind of respects your thing, but also can, contribute if needed.
Like, I feel like there aren't many. Like the qualities of a good editor-in-chief are the qualities of a good manager. Like that, it's applicable to other avenues as well. And that, to me, that's one thing, and not to get too inside baseball, but like what makes a good editor-in-chief in my eyes is a good manager. Because, I'll just leave it there.
That's all good because I'm a terrible manager.
That's the end of that.
I will say I work with loads of really good editors on magazines. when I was on Nintendo Mags, worked with Mark Green and Nick Ellis and Charlotte Martin. And I worked with Tim Weaver, who used to be on Xbox World magazine. And they were all funny as well. It's nice I like to have a funny boss. It just makes the day a lot more enjoyable if you can have a good old chuckle.
I mean, yeah, not a prick is a good quality in a boss. Definitely, 100%.
Specifically funny as well. Like, having a good chuckle. That's what you want.
I mean, that's what I
rate that very highly. Imagine having a boring boss. Oof.
I mean, I would take a boring boss over like a,
prankster,
an asshole, basically. Because
like let's get it close to the asshole line, but not over it.
Banter, banter good, bullying bad.
I've also got that tattooed on my back.
It's a good mantra to live by. So thank you very much, Mog. Bobby got in touch. Bobby said, "Hey guys, this is Bobby, if you'll remember from last week, who said, like, how can I support the show?" And I was like, well, head to rockpapershotgun.com/subscribe. So Bobby, in a follow-up, hey guys, I've now subscribed to RPS to support the show, but there was no way to explicitly state that it was because of the PC Gaming Weekspot. Saying that, on the last show, you said that bounties were disgusting. So fuck you and everything you stand for. I will continue to financially support you, but I will continually feel shame. P.S. The Bounty Ice Cream Bar is the greatest contribution to human civilization since the spinning jenny. If you disagree, I'll unsubscribe. Also, can I suggest you both listen to the band Man in the Echo? If you haven't heard of them, have a feeling you would both love them. Top tracks, PR masterpiece, On Safari, Operation Margarine, and I don't give a fuck what you reckon. Regards, Bobby. Bounty Ice Cream, Matthew, opinions on that?
Well, I feel like we have to tread carefully because I don't want to lose a subscriber.
I'll say worse than bad. Get it out of here, Bobby. What are you doing, Bounty Ice Cream? Trying to make ice cream something good, and you're messing it up by sticking a bounty in there.
I like he says, "I will continue to financially support you, but I will continue feel shame. You will also continually chew that coconut for the rest of your life because it is impossible to break down coconut of bounty. It is a curse that you have to live with for the rest of your life. Like, by all means, don't." If you accept that curse, fine, but don't force it on other people. Bounties are so rank.
Oh, just the worst.
They're so
Bobby.
rank. I'm sorry, Bobby. If we have to part ways, so be it. You've got to stand for something.
Bobby, I'm sure you're a nice guy, but let me
guess. It's interesting how Bobby has included his surname. Let me guess. It's Bounty. He's Bobby Bounty Jr., the son of Bobby Bounty Sr., inventor of the bounty.
Ready to inherit the millions, the bounty empire. But yeah, come on, Bobby. Come on. Matthew,
I can't believe Big Coconut is trying to get in on our action.
Have you ever heard of the band Man and the Echo?
I haven't. I mean, is that Bobby's band? Is Bobby trying to promote his own band?
Oh, that would be. I didn't think of that. That would be a good move, Bobby.
I mean, it's one way of doing it. We'll literally read out anything.
When this email came through, I was like, do you know what, Bobby? Despite your horrible opinion on chocolate, I will give Man in the Echo a listen. And Bobby's not wrong. I quite kind of I don't know, how would you describe him? Kind of politically charged guitar indie pop. It's good. Like, so
it's not like a bounty for your ears.
No, not at all. It's very
disgusting. It goes on forever.
Very jaunty tunes, kind of contrasted by like heavier or lyrics with more heft to them.
Oh, you know me. As a resident centrist, I have no interest in such things. Unless that's the view they're supporting.
I could be wrong, but I don't
With
think
their great
so.
hits, sit on the fence, don't get involved. Mild tut.
But yeah, thank you very much, Bobby. And Bobby, please just eat a double decker or something, for God's sake. Our next question comes from Sean. Sean says, "Hello, Cullum and Castle. The Burning Questions intro jingle of a screaming man gets more disturbing with every episode. So I ask you, what are your least favourite sounds in gaming? Be they disturbing, spooky, or plain gross? Also, favourite sound. Mine is the Mip Murp sound from Dota 2. No, I don't know. Mip Murp? I don't know what it is. When you try to attack an invincible tower. Love the pod. Keep up the good work,
Oh
Sean.
man, I wish I'd read these
much,
questions
Sean.
ahead so I could have planned an answer.
Any favourites or least favourites that come to mind?
Least favourite, it's not a PC game, but in Zelda, like there's those zombies, the re-deads that scream when they see you. But it's like a really old, because it's from like the N64 era, just the quality of the sound's a little bit off, and it's just this deafening shriek, big J horror vibes.
So like it's not necessarily that you're like, oh, it's you get an overwhelming sense of dread. It's just the sound is
No, the
piercing.
scream itself is creepy, but it's also like whatever, massively compressed or something. So it just the whole thing it's like a nightmare times by like nightmare execution.
Okay. I can give you actually like from the sound of collecting a single ring in Sonic when you have 0 rings is just
That's your favourite
it's
sound.
sheer elation. While I don't know, would you say this is maybe I'm stretching by saying this is a sound, but like when you're about to run out of oxygen underwater is just like that is sheer dread. But maybe I'm kind of I don't know if I'd say that's sound.
A better PC example would be like the sound like the head crabs make in Half-Life, and the moan of like the head crab guys when they've got one on their head. I've never been a fan of the health stations in Half-Life where it's got this. I don't really know what it's going for. That you sort of plug you sort of recharge them. And it's like. It's like a weird, like it's hard to place sound.
Is that a sound you dislike or like?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Okay. What else is a good sound? I like the kind of whale-esque whale, I suppose, from the Big Daddy. The kind of like.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. That's good. Do you know what's actually? See, again, like it's a good sound, but maybe I'd put it into like sounds I don't like because I've messed up and shit's gonna hit the fan. Is the alert sound in Metal Gear? It's like it's a great sound, really iconic, but when that happens, it's panic stations, and you go from like sneaky boy to just like bang 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 bang.
My favourite sound effect in recent memory was in Metro Exodus, the level where you're out in the desert. If you fire the sniper rifle, it like echoes across the desert for like 10 seconds. It's got so much. It's like.
All right.
And it just sounds like those bullets are quite hard to come by. Like firing a sniper rifle in that game feels like quite an event. So, it feels like an event. It sounds like an event. That's a good thing.
That's a good one. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Sean. And Orchid messaged us. Hi, fellas. Love the Weekspot. Thank you, Orchid. My question is, what was the first game you completed to the end? A great question, because honestly, I'm struggling. When this came in, I was like, Jesus, I genuinely am not sure. Because, yeah.
It's probably going to be like a Game Boy game or something. It's probably going to be like Super Mario Land 1 or 2 for me.
Like, because for me, maybe probably something on the Mega Drive. I was going to say Streets of Rage, but I can't remember me and my friend, if we ever actually finished it, because there's a part where you meet Mr. X and he goes, oh, you're here to kill.
And he quizzes you on world history.
It's like, oh, shut up, will you? But he sends you back and you have to defeat all the bosses again. It's like, what's this? probably a Sonic if I. But again, I can't say with full confidence. But I would hazard a guess a Sonic. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Sonic game. I don't think I ever finished the 2D ones. They were rock hard.
I definitely
Sonic
finished
2, that robot at the end. Oh.
I think it might be Sonic 2. I'm not sure if I would have finished Sonic by myself, but with a pal being Tails, maybe Sonic 2, I'd say. Thank you very much, Orchid. Your answer was probably with what you would anticipate. Me, a Sonic game. Matthew, a Mario game. Thank you very much to everyone for emailing in. You can reach us if you would like at any stage throughout the week. Get your burning questions in. Weekspot at rockpapershotgun.com. Yes, thank you very much for watching or listening. This, the 46th episode of the PC Gaming Weekspot.
Is it that many?
It is indeed. It is.
Really?
So if you want more of us, there are ways to get more and support and so on and so forth. You can follow us on social media. I am at Colm_Ahern. Matthew is at Mr. Basil_Pesto. Rock Paper Shotgun is at Rock Paper Shot. If you want to talk to some like-minded folks, head over to Discord, discord.gg/Rock Paper Shotgun. If you want to watch the PC Gaming Weekspot, go to youtube.com/Rock Paper Shot. But if you want the audio version to the PC Gaming Weekspot or any of Rock Paper Shotgun's other podcasts, the Electronic Wireless Show or Ultimate Audio Bang, just search for them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., etc. If you want to buy some t-shirts, I checked, there are no hoodies, as I said last week. Go to store.repop.com and click on the Rock Paper Shotgun button and buy some t-shirts. But if you want to be like Bobby, don't eat bounties, don't go that far. But you can support Rock Paper Shotgun by going to rockpapershotgun.com/subscribe, where you'll get an ad-free website, exclusive articles, podcasts, and loads of cool stuff. But for all of your PC gaming needs, go to rockpapershotgun.com. Matthew, another week down, we can raise the trophy aloft after a grueling contest and other things about sport.
I got to go and throw a bin through the windows of Papa John's.
Really stick it to the man. And not Domino's though. Do you not feel like Domino's is...
Well, that's on the other side of town, and I don't want to carry a bin across town.
Fair point.
I'm not an idiot.
So now it's time for my least favourite part of the show. Now it is time to bid the listener, the viewer, adieu. So say goodbye, Matthew Castle.
Goodbye.
And say goodbye, Colm Ahern, Sloan Agafol.